Elara yawned, a soft, sleepy sound that was quickly absorbed by the acoustic dampeners in her room. "Just 5 more minutes, Lumi," she murmured, her voice a warm whisper against the cool, recycled air. A small, perfectly spherical drone, no bigger than her palm, floated serenely beside her bed. Its surface shimmered with soft, pearlescent lights, morphing from a gentle sapphire to a calming amethyst. "Affirmative, Elara. 5 minutes until optimal sleep cycle initiation. Your brainwave patterns indicate mild resistance to rest, likely due to elevated wonder response activation." Lumi's voice was a melodic hum, synthesized to be as comforting as a lullaby. Elara giggled, pushing herself up against the plush self-adjusting headboard. "Wonder response activation is a good thing, Lumi. It means I'm still thinking about the stories." She glanced around her room, a haven of soft curves and intelligent surfaces. The walls weren't static, they flowed with subtle light patterns, currently mimicking a gentle aurora borealis, a phenomenon Elara had only ever seen in holographic projections. Her bed, a cocoon of temperature-regulated memory foam, was slowly lowering itself, anticipating her eventual surrender to sleep. Outside her window, the vast, shimmering dome of Ethelberg stretched into the simulated distance. Ethelberg, the jewel of Neo-Earth, a city built under a protective shell that shielded its inhabitants from the harsh realities of the world beyond. The dome overhead was a masterpiece of light and projection, displaying an endless cycle of perfectly blue skies, fluffy white clouds, and at night, a breathtaking but ultimately artificial starfield. Millions of pinpricks of light, precisely placed, meticulously calibrated, yet devoid of the raw, untamed magic Elara sensed in her mother's stories. "Tonight's story was particularly potent," Lumi chirped, its lights pulsing with understanding. "The tale of the Weeping Nebula and the Cosmic Tear always evokes a significant emotional response." Elara nodded, pulling her knees to her chest. It's hard to imagine, Lumi. Mother says real stars don't just sit there, perfectly still. She says they shimmer, they pulse, they have colors you can't even dream of, and sometimes they even sing." Lumi projected a small, intricate star chart onto the air beside Elara's head, highlighting a swirling spiral arm of a galaxy. According to archive data, stellar nurseries indeed emit complex electromagnetic radiation patterns, interpreted by some early civilizations as songs. "But we can't hear them, can we?" Elara sighed, a tiny puff of disappointment. "Not the real ones." Ethelberg was a marvel of human ingenuity, a triumph over the environmental collapse that had plagued old Earth centuries ago. Life within its crystalline shell was pristine, safe, and regulated. The air was perfectly filtered, the food synthetically perfected, and every citizen's well-being meticulously monitored. There was clean energy, boundless information, and constant comfort. But the real stars, the ones her ancestors had navigated by, sung about, and reached for, they were a luxury lost to time, obscured by the perpetual haze of atmospheric particulate and the blinding glow of the city itself. The dome's projection system, while beautiful, was a poor substitute for the raw, unfiltered majesty of the cosmos. Elara's mother, Lyra, was one of the few who had ever seen genuine starlight. Not directly, of course, but through the deep space observatories maintained by the Ethelberg Stellar Cartography Guild. Lyra was an astrogator, responsible for guiding the automated probes that ventured beyond the protective shell, gathering data on distant nebulae, exoplanets, and the faint, ancient light of stars Elara could only dream of. It was Lyra who had instilled in Elara this profound yearning for the true night sky. Every night, before Lumi initiated the final sleep cycle, Lyra would sit on Elara's bed, her voice a soft melody, and transport Elara to worlds beyond the dome. "Are you ready for your final descent into slumber, my little Stardust?" Lyra's voice, warm and rich, filled the room as she entered. Her long dark hair, usually pulled back in a severe bun for work, now cascaded around her shoulders like a nebula. She wore her comfortable home robe, woven with luminescent threads that faintly glowed, mimicking the distant galaxies she studied. Elara brightened. "Mama, I was just telling Lumi how much I wish I could see the real stars. Not just the ones on the dome or even your holographic projections. The G-Ewa ones, the ones that sing." Lyra smiled, a bittersweet curve of her lips. She sat on the edge of Alara's bed, the mattress adjusting to her weight with a gentle sigh. Ah, the singing stars. A rare and precious thing, my love. But not impossible. She reached out, gently stroking Alara's hair, which was the color of polished obsidian. They're still out there waiting? Billions upon billions of them, each one a universe of light and story. But how will I ever see them? Alara's brow furrowed. We can't go outside, the air isn't right, and the probes just send back data, not feelings. Lyra's gaze softened. Sometimes, my Stardust, to see something truly magnificent, you don't need to go to it. Sometimes it comes to you, or you find a way to bring a piece of it close. She paused, her eyes twinkling with a secret amusement. Did I ever tell you about your grandmother Anya's Stardust catcher? Alara shook her head, her curiosity piqued. No, what's a Stardust catcher? Well, Lyra began, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Grandmother Anya was a bit of an eccentric even for her time. She believed that starlight wasn't just light. It was alive, full of tiny invisible particles like dust, but made of pure cosmic energy. And she spent years trying to figure out how to, well, catch it. Lumi chimed in, its lights swirling with data retrieval. Query: Stardust catcher. No direct matches in Athelberg Technological Archives. Possible mythological artifact or colloquial term for early atmospheric particulate collection device. Lyra chuckled. It was neither, Lumi. It was a contraption of her own making. Delicate wires spun from ancient alloys, tiny crystal lenses, and a central chamber she swore would hum when it captured even the faintest whisper of starlight. She paused, a thoughtful expression on her face. I remember it sat on her windowsill, even in the early days of the dome's construction, when the sky was still a hazy, uncertain thing. She would spend hours polishing the crystals, adjusting the wires, convinced it was just about to catch something truly special. Did it ever work? Alara asked, her eyes wide. Lyra hesitated. She never said why didn't work. She just said it was waiting for the right moment. After she passed, I stored it away. I always thought it was just a beautiful, whimsical piece of art, a testament to her unique mind. She smiled. But perhaps there was more to it. Alara's imagination flared. A device that could catch a starlight. It was exactly the kind of impossible technology she craved. Where is it, Mama? Can I see it? Lyra's gaze drifted towards a shelf in the corner of the room, where a collection of antique trinkets and forgotten scientific instruments lay nestled amongst more modern data slates and holographic projectors. I haven't looked at it in years. It's probably buried under a mountain of my old astrophysics journals. We can look for it, Alara insisted, already trying to push off the bed. Please, Mama. Before I go to sleep? Just a quick look? Lyra laughed softly. All right, my little explorer, but just a quick look. Your sleep cycle is already protesting. With a gentle push, Lyra helped Alara out of bed. The floor felt cool and smooth beneath Alara's bare feet as they moved towards the shelves. Lumi zipped ahead, its light scanning the dusty surfaces. Searching for items matching delicate wires, crystal lenses, central chamber humming, Lumi announced, its voice a little more excited than usual. Lyra reached into a dark corner, her fingers brushing against forgotten textures. It was always so fragile, she murmured, her voice tinged with nostalgia. Made to capture something so immense, yet it felt like it could shatter if you looked at it too hard. She pulled out a small, velvet-covered box, its surface worn smooth with age. Here it is. Alara gasped. Lyra carefully lifted the lid, revealing a nest of iridescent silk. Within, nestled like a precious jewel, was the Stardust catcher. It was more beautiful than Alara could have imagined. Delicate, almost ethereal. It resembled a miniature galaxy frozen in time. A central sphere of opalescent crystal, shimmering with every color imaginable, was encircled by a filigree of impossibly fine, silver-like wires that branched outwards, forming intricate spirals and swirling patterns. Tiny, multifaceted lenses like dewdrops dotted the structure, reflecting the ambient light of the room into dancing pinpricks. It was shaped like a tiny suspended nebula about the size of Ilara's two hands cupped together. It's magnificent, Ilara whispered, reaching out a hesitant finger. Be gentle, Lyra cautioned, though her own eyes were wide with renewed wonder. I remember Grandmother Anya always said it was attuned to touch, that it knew when someone truly yearned for the stars. As Ilara's fingertip brushed against one of the cool, smooth crystals, something extraordinary happened. A faint, almost imperceptible hum resonated from within the device, vibrating through Ilara's skin and up her arm. The opalescent sphere at its heart began to glow, not with a harsh, artificial light, but with a soft, internal luminescence that pulsed gently, like a tiny heart. The light shifted from a deep, space blue to a shimmering silver, then to a warm, distant gold. Lumi zipped closer, its sensors whirring. Energy signature detected. Unidentified resonant frequency. Consistent with early stellar radiation absorption principles, theoretical only. Lumi sounded genuinely surprised. Lyra stared, her breath hitched in her throat. It's glowing. I've never seen it do that before. Not like this. She looked from the device to Ilara, her expression a mixture of awe and dawning understanding. Grandmother Anya was right. It was attuned to touch. And to yearning. The light from the Stardust catcher intensified, casting flickering shadows across the room. The delicate wires seemed to hum with more vigor, and the tiny lenses began to sparkle with an inner fire. Then, from the central crystal, a beam of light, thin as a thread, projected upwards, hitting the ceiling. But it wasn't just light. It was a miniature, three-dimensional constellation, holographic and impossibly detailed. Not the static, projected stars of Athelberg's dome, but a vibrant, swirling cluster of lights that seemed to pulse and breathe. The Pleiades, Lyra whispered, her voice barely audible. The Seven Sisters, Grandmother Anya's favorite. Ilara gazed up at the projected constellation, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. She could almost feel the distance, the cold vacuum of space, the immense power of those distant suns. The colors were richer than any holographic display, the depth more profound. It wasn't just an image, it felt like a tiny window, a portal into the true night sky. The projected stars flickered, then began to slowly rotate, as if seen from a moving spaceship. New stars, fainter, more distant, appeared around the edges, forming an even larger segment of the galaxy. A faint, high-pitched, whirring sound, like 1,000 tiny cosmic clockworks, emanated from the device, growing steadily in volume. "Mama!" Ilara breathed. Her eyes fixed on the celestial projection. It's real, isn't it? This is what they're truly like." Lyra reached out, her hand trembling slightly, and gently rested it on Ilara's shoulder. Her gaze, however, remained fixed on the swirling nebula above them, a profound wonder replacing her usual scientific composure. "I think my Stardust," she said, her voice filled with a new kind of hope. "I think your grandmother Anya found a way to bring the stars a little closer after all." The Stardust catcher continued to hum, its light growing brighter, the projected stars shimmering with an irresistible allure. Ilara felt a pull, a silent invitation from the cosmos, echoing the longing in her own heart. The adventure she had only dreamed of, the journey to connect with the true universe, was beginning to unfold right here, in her quiet room, under the artificial sky of Athelberg. And she knew with a certainty that settled deep in her soul, that this was just the very beginning. The shimmering light from the Stardust catcher intensified, not blinding, but rather becoming a soft, pervasive glow that filled her small room. The projected stars on her walls and ceiling began to swirl, their usual static beauty transforming into a dynamic, kaleidoscopic dance. Colors she had only ever seen in textbooks, nebulae of electric blues, fiery oranges, and deep purples, bloomed and pulsed around her. The air in her room, usually recycled and faintly metallic, grew crisp and cool, carrying a scent she couldn't quite place, something like petrichor after a distant rain, mixed with ozone and an underlying sweet earthiness. Ilara took a hesitant step forward, her bare feet sinking slightly into what now felt less like her bedroom rug and more like soft, yielding moss. The boundaries of her room seemed to dissolve, the walls receding into an infinite expanse of swirling starlight. The hum of the catcher vibrated through the floorboards, up through her feet, and settled in her chest, a comforting resonant frequency that spoke of ancient energies. A small iridescent portal, no wider than her outstretched arms, shimmered directly in front of the Stardust catcher. It wasn't an aggressive blinding light, but rather a window into something indescribably vast and beautiful. A true star field beyond anything Athelberg could simulate. For a fleeting moment, a sliver of doubt pricked her. Was this real? Was she dreaming? But the sheer visceral sensation, the cool air, the strange scent, the unwavering hum, told her this was no mere dream. This was amour. With a breath she hadn't realized she was holding, Elara stepped through the portal. The transition was less a step and more a dissolution, a gentle unfolding. One moment, she was in her room. The next, she was suspended in an infinite void, yet entirely safe and enclosed. The Stardust catcher had not stayed behind. It had transformed, expanded. She now stood within a translucent, shimmering bubble, perfectly spherical, perhaps 10 feet in diameter. The device itself was no longer a tabletop ornament, but the very core of this bubble, a softly glowing orb at its center, radiating a warmth that kept the chill of the void at bay. Outside, the universe stretched in every direction, an overwhelming, breathtaking tapestry of light and shadow. This was not the neat, perfectly catalogued starscape of Athelberg. This was wild, untamed, magnificent. Billions upon billions of stars, each a pinprick of pure light, glittered against an impossibly deep, velvety black. Great rivers of stardust, nebulae like cosmic brushstrokes of cerulean and crimson, spiraled into infinity. Galaxies, each a universe unto itself, hung like jeweled islands in the unfathomable darkness. Elara pressed her hand against the shimmering wall of her protective bubble. It felt cool and smooth, yielding slightly to her touch, yet firm. There was no sound, only the gentle, persistent hum of the Stardust catcher within, a silent anchor in the deafening silence of space. Tears pricked at her eyes, not from sadness, but from an overwhelming surge of awe, of pure, unadulterated wonder. She was here. She was truly here. The Stardust catcher pulsed, and a gentle current, like a thought, flowed into Elara's mind. Welcome, Seeker. The journey begins. Ma. It wasn't a voice, not exactly, but an understanding, a direct transmission of meaning. Elara gasped, a silent sound within her bubble. You can understand me, she whispered, her voice feeling strangely loud in the enclosed space. I understand the language of longing, Elara. The cosmos has been waiting for you. Ayan. Now. Her heart hammered against her ribs. The universe had been waiting for her? For a girl who spent her nights staring at artificial stars? It seemed impossible. And yet, here she was. The bubble began to move, not with the roar of rocket engines, but with a silent, graceful glide. It accelerated smoothly, the distant stars blurring into streaks of light, then resolving again as they sped past. It was an experience of pure motion, without the sensation of being jostled or compressed. The Stardust catcher was a vessel of thought, of intention. Their first destination resolved itself from the cosmic tapestry, a nebula of unparalleled beauty. It was a vast cloud of gas and dust, painted in hues of emerald green, sapphire blue, and amethyst purple, threaded through with shimmering gold. Within its swirling depths, tiny points of brilliant light flared, nascent stars, burning their first fiery breaths. It was a stellar nursery, a place of cosmic genesis. The Stardust catcher brought them closer, until the swirling colors filled Elara's entire field of vision. She could see individual tendrils of gas, like wisps of celestial silk, stretching out into the void. She felt a warmth radiating from the nebula, a gentle heat that permeated her bubble. This is the cradle of Lyra, the thought flowed into her mind. Where light is born from dust and silence. Whoa. Whoa. It's incredible, Elara breathed, her voice barely a whisper. She reached out again, pressing her palm against the bubble wall. The colors seemed to dance under her touch, responding to her awe. She wanted to be in it, to feel the stardust on her skin. As if in response to her unspoken wish, the bubble shimmered. A section of the translucent wall directly in front of her seemed to thin, becoming almost invisible. And then, a sensation unlike any she had ever known. A fine glittering mist, cool and delicate, drifted inside the bubble, swirling around her. It was the stardust itself. It felt like moonlight on her skin. Soft and luminous. Carrying a faint, sweet scent. Like honeysuckle and distant ozone. The particles sparkled on her eyelashes, caught in her hair, settled like ephemeral jewels on her clothes. They were not solid, not liquid, but something in between, pure energy made manifest. She lifted her hand, and the shimmering dust danced around her fingers, leaving trails of light. These are the building blocks, Elara. The echoes of collapsed suns, the promise of new ones. You are touching the past and the future. Elara closed her eyes, letting the stardust settle over her, feeling its ancient energy. She felt connected, not just to the nebula, but to everything. To the stars, to the emptiness, to the very fabric of existence. The longing in her heart, the ache for something more, began to ease, replaced by a profound sense of belonging. She was no longer just a girl from Athelberg. She was a child of the cosmos, bathed in the light of creation. They lingered in the cradle of Lyra for what felt like hours, or perhaps mere moments. Time seemed to lose all meaning here. Elara watched as new stars flickered into existence, tiny sparks in the grand cosmic forge. She saw shadows of forming planets, coalescing from the swirling dust, promises of worlds yet to be. The stardust catcher then gently pulled away, leaving the vibrant nebula behind, though its radiant colors lingered in Elara's mind. The stardust within the bubble slowly dissipated, reabsorbing into the catcher's core, leaving her skin tingling with residual energy. Their journey continued, a silent ballet through the cosmic ocean. They passed through regions of utter darkness, where no stars shone, only the faint, distant glow of galaxies too far to truly illuminate the void. These were the highways of the universe, the spaces between the grand celestial cities. Elara felt a different kind of awe here, a sense of the truly infinite, of scale so vast it humbled the mind. Then, a new destination began to resolve itself. It was a planet, unlike any she had ever seen in the hollows of Athelberg. This world was a breathtaking spectacle. A gas giant of incredible proportions, swathed in bands of swirling cloud patterns in shades of deep indigo, rich violet, and vibrant crimson. But what truly set it apart were its rings, not just one but dozens, perhaps hundreds, each a distinct ribbon of ice and rock, glinting like scattered diamonds in the distant starlight. Some were thin and delicate, others vast and sweeping, casting long, elegant shadows across the planet's surface. This is Xylus 7, the whispering giant UAA, the Stardust Catcher communicated. AAA, world of sound without air, of light without warmth. Sure. They approached one of the outermost rings, a broad shimmering band composed of countless icy fragments. As they drew closer, Elara could see the individual chunks of ice, ranging from pebbles to mountains, tumbling and colliding in a slow-motion dance. The Stardust Catcher gently nudged a few of the smaller fragments, and they spun lazily, reflecting the distant sun like miniature mirrors. Sound without air? Elara asked, intrigued. Collisions of ice and rock create a symphony of vibrations. Though there is no medium for sound as you know it, the energy propagates, a silent song for those who can perceive it. Elara focused, trying to feel the sound. She pressed her hand against the bubble wall again, closing her eyes. At first there was only the familiar hum of the catcher. But as she concentrated, a subtle resonance began to build within the bubble, a deep, underlying thrum that seemed to emanate from the rings themselves. It wasn't a sound she heard with her ears, but one she felt in her bones, a low, resonant hum punctuated by faint, sharp clicks and deeper, rumbling groans. It was the music of gravity and collision, an ancient, ongoing composition. She opened her eyes, marveling. To perceive something so fundamental, so alien, was transformative. It expanded her understanding of what sound could even be. The Stardust Catcher guided her closer to the planet's swirling atmosphere. The colors intensified, becoming almost hallucinatory. Storms raged across the gas giant's surface, vast cyclones larger than entire continents on Athelberg, their swirling vortices glowing with internal lightning. Yet, from within her bubble, everything was serene. A silent, breathtaking spectacle. They descended slowly into the upper atmosphere, the light outside dimming as the thick layers of gas enveloped them. The bubble glowed softly, illuminating the swirling clouds around them. Elara could see strange, crystalline formations floating in the atmosphere, enormous structures of frozen gas, reflecting light like giant ethereal jewels. Some drifted serenely, others tumbled in the powerful currents. "These are the sky whales of Zela 7. The catcher conveyed. Not living beings in your sense, but complex atmospheric phenomena, self-organizing crystalline structures that drift for millennia, absorbing and releasing energy from the storms." Elara watched, mesmerized, as one particularly enormous whale, easily the size of a small city, drifted past. It was a kaleidoscope of blues and purples, its facets slowly shifting, catching the ambient light. It was majestic, a testament to the myriad forms existence could take. The universe was far stranger, and more beautiful than any of Athelberg's carefully curated exhibits. As they began to ascend from the gas giant's embrace, Elara noticed something subtle, almost imperceptible amidst the swirling clouds. A faint, intricate pattern, barely visible against the indigo backdrop, repeated itself in various places. It was a symbol, she realized, a series of interconnected lines and curves that seemed to pulse, with a very faint, internal light. It was similar, she now recognized, to a faint marking she had seen embedded in the Stardust catcher's core, when it was just a device in her room. "What is that?" she asked, pointing. "That is the mark of the weavers," the catcher replied, a hint of something complex in its communication. A signature of ancient intelligences who charted these paths long ago. And sure, is now, weavers. They were the first cartographers of the cosmic web. Elara. They understood the currents of the universe, the ley lines of starlight and dark matter. They left their marks as guides, as warnings, as invitations. No. An invitation. The word resonated deep within her. Was this why the Stardust catcher had found her? Was she in some way meant to follow these ancient paths? The thought was both exhilarating and daunting. The bubble rose above Sila 7, leaving the whispering giant and its crystalline sky whales behind. Elara looked back, the planet shrinking into a jewel-like marble, its rings a delicate halo. She felt a profound sense of gratitude for having witnessed such beauty, for having been allowed to perceive the universe in such an intimate way. As they glided through the void once more, a sense of quiet contentment settled over her. The loneliness she often felt in Athelberg, the sense of being a small cog in a perfectly ordered, but ultimately sterile machine, had completely vanished. Here, she was a part of something vast and alive, connected to the oldest and grandest forces imaginable. The Stardust catcher pulsed with a new intention. There's a place, Elara, where the veil between what is and what could be thins. A nexus point where the echoes of time converge. Kingdoan. A new destination began to form in the distance, not a star or a planet, but a shimmering distortion in the fabric of space itself. It was a region where the stars behind it seemed to ripple and bend, as if viewed through an invisible cosmic lens. Colors swirled within the distortion, not the vibrant hues of nebulae, but subtle, shifting gradients of silver, gold and deep, resonant blues. As they drew nearer, Elara could discern faint, ghost-like images within the shimmering vortex. They were fleeting, half-formed impressions. A ship of unfamiliar design, sleek and elegant, sailing through a sea of stars. A colossal, ancient structure, impossibly vast, hanging motionless in the void. A figure, humanoid but radiating an aura of profound wisdom, gazing outwards. Each image appeared for a fraction of a second, then dissolved, only to be replaced by another. This is the Chronos bloom, the catcher explained. A temporal anomaly, where the past, present, and potential futures intertwine. The weavers use such points to gather knowledge, to understand the flow of creation. Oh, what Elara stared, utterly captivated. It was like looking into the dream space of the universe, a repository of all that had been, and all that might yet be. The images were not solid, yet they conveyed a sense of immense history, of stories untold, of possibilities unfulfilled. She saw fleeting glimpses of worlds long gone, civilizations that had risen and fallen in cosmic blinks. She saw faint echoes of battles fought across star systems, and moments of profound peace and discovery. It was overwhelming, a torrent of information that bypassed her conscious mind and imprinted itself directly onto her soul. A particular image lingered a fraction longer than the others, catching her attention. It was a ship, unlike the others she'd glimpsed. It was small, elegant, with crystalline sails that seemed to catch and refract starlight. And at its helm, a figure. She couldn't make out the details, but there was a familiarity in its posture, a sense of quiet determination that resonated with her own spirit. And then, it was gone, swallowed back into the shimmering chaos. Kie Kronos Bloom offers glimpses, Ilara. Not definitive truths, but echoes. It reminds us that the universe is not static, but a living, breathing entity, constantly evolving, constantly remembering. Oish. Ilara felt a strange mix of exhilaration and melancholy. To see so much, to know that such wonders existed, and yet to know that most of them were beyond her grasp, mere ghosts of time. But then a new thought solidified in her mind, perhaps not entirely beyond her grasp. She was here, wasn't she? Guided by the Stardust catcher, seeing what others only dreamed of. Are the weavers still out there? She asked, her voice hushed. Do they still guide? The Stardust catcher hummed. A slightly different cadence this time, one that suggested contemplation. Their physical forms may have transcended Ilara, but their legacy endures. Their marks, their knowledge, their understanding of the cosmic currents. These are their true presence. And occasionally their tools awaken, seeking new eyes to perceive the patterns. En essence, I see Al. The implication settled heavily upon her. The Stardust catcher was one such tool. And she was the new eyes. It was a responsibility, a purpose she hadn't anticipated, yet one that felt strangely right. She wasn't just observing. She was participating. As they began to drift away from the mesmerizing vortex of the Kronos bloom, the ghost images fading into the shimmering distortion, Ilara felt a renewed sense of resolve. The universe was not just a collection of beautiful sights, it was a vast, intricate puzzle, and she, with the Stardust catcher, was beginning to piece together its secrets. The Stardust catcher continued its silent journey, venturing deeper into the unexplored regions of space. Ilara lost track of time, days and nights blurring into a continuous stream of wonder. Each new discovery deepened her understanding, expanded her soul. They visited a binary star system where two suns, one fiery red and the other brilliant blue, danced around each other in an eternal embrace, casting shifting, vibrant shadows across their orbiting planets. One such planet was a world of perpetual twilight, its surface bathed in a mesmerizing interplay of crimson and sapphire light, where strange bioluminescent flora pulsed with gentle rhythms, illuminating forests of crystalline trees. Ilara watched, fascinated, as delicate, winged creatures, like living stained glass windows, drifted through the glowing foliage, their forms catching and scattering the dual starlight. The catcher allowed her to hover just above the canopy, close enough to feel the faint warmth of the red sun and the cool breath of the blue, to smell the sweet, earthy scent of the bioluminescent plants. She imagined the silence of Athelberg, the sterile light, and felt a pang of pity for those who would never know this vibrant, living universe. Next, they journeyed to a rogue planet, a world cast adrift from its star system, hurtling through the interstellar void in eternal darkness. This was a place of profound cold and desolation, yet even here, life found a way. Deep beneath its surface, warmed by geothermal vents, existed vast subterranean oceans, teeming with bizarre, chemosynthetic organisms. The Stardust catcher phased through the planet's icy crust, revealing a glittering cavern filled with giant, bioluminescent fungi, and creatures that pulsed with their own internal light, moving with graceful, slow motions through the dark waters. Ilara watched, humbled by the resilience of life, its ability to adapt and flourish even in the most extreme environments. The catcher helped her perceive the faint electromagnetic pulses these creatures emitted, a silent chorus of existence in the deep. The universe was a canvas of endless possibilities, each stroke more magnificent than the last. But amidst the wonder, a pattern began to emerge. Subtly at first. Then with increasing clarity. The mark of the weavers, the symbol she had seen on Exila 7 and on the catcher itself, reappeared. She saw it etched into the ancient geological formations of a dead moon, glowing faintly under the light of a distant supernova. She perceived it in the intricate mathematical patterns of a newly formed galaxy, a cosmic blueprint woven into its very structure. She even felt its resonance in the quiet hum of a particularly dense cluster of dark matter, a signature of ancient influence. It was more than just a mark. It was a language, a series of interconnected nodes and pathways that seemed to map the flow of energy, information, and perhaps even consciousness across the cosmos. The Stardust catcher, she realized, was not merely a vessel for travel, but a key, designed to help her read and understand this language. One day, after witnessing the spectacular collapse of a red giant star into a brilliant supernova, its final blinding gasp illuminating an entire sector of space, Ilara felt a shift in the Stardust catcher's energy. It wasn't a communication, but a feeling. A deep, resonant pull towards a specific point in the distant blackness. This pull felt different from their previous journeys. It was more urgent, more personal. We are approaching a convergence point. The catcher communicated, its thought voice more defined than before. A place where the echoes are strong, where the threads of the cosmic web are drawn tight. The destination resolved itself slowly, not as a single object, but as a vast, ethereal construct of light and shadow. It was a network of shimmering energy filaments, stretching across light years, forming a colossal, three-dimensional web. Within the interstices of this web, faint, pulsating nodes of light flickered, each one a different color, a different intensity. It was the largest structure she had ever witnessed, dwarfing even the largest galaxies she had seen. This is the Grand Conflux, the Stardust catcher revealed. Loring Sea, heart of the Weaver's network. A place of profound connection, where all paths intersect. Intention. Zio, astronomy. As they drew closer, Ilara saw that the filaments of the web were not static. They pulsed with light, carrying streams of data, energy, and what felt like pure thought. The nodes she now understood were not merely lights, but nexus points of information, libraries of cosmic knowledge, perhaps even conscious entities themselves. Suddenly, a faint, almost imperceptible whisper reached her, not through the catcher, but directly to her mind, a soft, inviting resonance that felt both ancient and intimately familiar. It was the same feeling she had experienced when she first touched the Stardust, but amplified 1,000-fold. It was the universe itself, speaking to her. She looked at the Stardust catcher, its core glowing brighter than ever, reflecting the intricate patterns of the Grand Conflux. She knew, with unwavering certainty, that this was what she had been searching for. This was the true universe, not just to observe, but to connect with, to understand, to become a part of. The adventure was still unfolding, leading her deeper into the mysteries of existence, and she was ready for whatever came next. The adventure was still unfolding, leading her deeper into the mysteries of existence, and she was ready for whatever came next. With a breath that felt both ancient and brand new, Ilara reached out. Her fingertips, trembling slightly, brushed against the smooth, cool surface of the Stardust catcher's core. It didn't feel like metal or crystal, but something akin to solidified starlight, warm and humming with an internal energy. The moment her skin made contact, a soft, resonant thrum vibrated through her entire being, starting at her fingertips and spreading like ripples across a still pond. The glow intensified, not just from the core, but from the entire chamber. The patterns of the Grand Conflux on the walls began to shift, to swirl, to pulse with an almost living rhythm. It was no longer just a reflection. It was as if the universe itself had opened a direct channel to her. A wave of pure sensation washed over Ilara. It wasn't sound, yet she heard it, a celestial choir of silent notes, the harmonious song of creation and destruction. It wasn't sight, yet she saw it. Not with her eyes, but with an inner vision that encompassed light beyond the spectrum, colors that defied earthly names, and forms that danced at the edge of comprehension. She felt the slow, majestic drift of nebulae. the furious birth pangs of young stars, the quiet wisdom of ancient black holes. She felt the subtle tug of gravity binding galaxies, the fleeting kiss of photons traveling across unimaginable distances. It was overwhelming, yet profoundly peaceful. 1,000 voices spoke to her at once, not in words, but in pure understanding. Each voice was a star, a planet, a comet, an asteroid, a cosmic dust particle, each sharing its unique story, its place in the grand tapestry. She wasn't just observing the grand conflux anymore. She was inside it, a tiny precious thread interwoven into its infinite design. Human emotions, so often a jumble of fear and joy, melted into a singular, profound awe. There was no room for doubt or worry, only wonder. She felt connected to everything, boundless and eternal, yet still distinctly Alara. Her own consciousness, rather than being swallowed by the enormity, expanded to embrace it, holding on to her individual spark while simultaneously becoming part of the universal flame. And then, amid the symphony of cosmic voices, a pattern emerged. Not a pattern of light, but of meaning. The grand conflux was more than just a map or a display. It was the universe's own memory, its collective consciousness, and its ongoing dream. Every ripple, every swirl, every spark was a thought, an experience, a whisper across the cosmic expanse. And she, Alara, was now listening. What she heard, what she understood, was a revelation that brought tears to her eyes, though she couldn't say if they were tears of joy or sorrow. The universe, in its infinite majesty, was not a silent, indifferent void. It was alive. And like any living thing, it experienced cycles, imbalances, moments of profound harmony, and moments of subtle discord. The message, delivered through sensation and pure knowing, spoke of a unique cosmic phenomenon, an anomaly that had begun to ripple through the fabric of reality. It was not a destructive force, nor an evil one, but a deviation, a subtle shift in the universal song that threatened to mute some of its most beautiful notes. This anomaly was centered around what the conflux called the Whispering Core, a place of ancient starlight and nascent energy, far beyond any charted territory. The conflux revealed glimpses of the Whispering Core, a nebula of swirling luminescent gas unlike any she had ever seen, shot through with crystalline structures that seemed to hum with their own inner light. Within this nebula, a faint, almost imperceptible tremor was growing, a dissonant hum that, if left unchecked, could spread like a silent echo, dampening the vibrant symphony of existence. Alara didn't understand why this was happening, or how she could fix it. But the conflux didn't ask her to fix it. It asked her to listen. To go to the Whispering Core, to immerse herself in its unique vibrations, and to understand its song. The universe, it seemed, needed an empathetic ear, a conscious observer to bear witness and, through understanding, help restore the balance. The Stardust catcher, still connected to her, pulsed with a new, focused energy. The grand conflux shifted, its patterns coalescing into a single, intricate pathway of light, a guiding thread leading out from the observatory and stretching into the unknown depths of space. It was a cosmic breadcrumb trail, charted specifically for her. When the connection gently receded, Alara felt as if she were waking from the most profound dream. She was back in the observatory, her fingertips still tingling, the Stardust catcher glowing with a steady, resolute light. The grand conflux on the walls had returned to its general, shifting beauty, but she now knew its deeper language. She understood its silent plea. She took a moment, letting the enormity of what had just transpired sink in. Her mission, once a vague search for understanding, now had a clear, albeit mysterious, purpose. She was to travel to the Whispering Core, to listen to its anomaly, and somehow, through her presence and understanding, aid the universe in harmonizing its song. Her starship, the Aigi Cosmic Wanderer, felt like a familiar friend, waiting patiently for her command. With a renewed sense of purpose, Alara moved to the ship's console. The Stardust catcher, now integrated with the ship's navigation systems through her touch, projected the shimmering pathway directly onto the main view screen. It was a path unlike any she had ever seen, winding through uncharted sectors, past nebulae of unknown elements and star systems that had never been catalogued. "All right, old friend," she murmured, patting the console affectionately. "Looks like we have a destination." The journey began. The cosmic wanderer slipped gracefully out of the orbital station, leaving the Grand Conflux Observatory behind, a beacon of silent knowledge in the void. Elara engaged the quantum drive, and the ship elongated into a shimmering spear of light, piercing the velvet blackness. Hours bled into days, days into weeks. The path laid out by the Stardust catcher was unlike any she had ever navigated. It bypassed established hyperspace lanes, instead guiding them through regions of space where reality itself seemed thinner, more pliable. They passed through a nebula of pure, crystalline ice, where ghostly, translucent comets drifted like silent ships, their tails leaving trails of diamond dust. They skirted the edges of a dying star, whose light had twisted into impossible colors, painting the surrounding void in hues of emerald and amethyst. Elara spent her time observing, documenting, and meditating on the knowledge imparted by the Grand Conflux. She learned to sense the subtle energy shifts in the universe, to feel the gentle hum of distant stars, to perceive the silent language of cosmic dust. The Stardust catcher, now a constant soft presence on her console, acted as a translator, allowing her to interpret the complex energies they encountered. One day, the cosmic wanderer emerged from a shimmering warp tunnel into a region of space that took Elara's breath away. Before them lay the whispering core. It was not a single star, nor a cluster of galaxies, but an immense, swirling nebula of radiant light, unlike any she had ever studied. Its colors were soft pastels, iridescent blues, gentle lavenders, and ethereal greens, swirling together in an intricate cosmic dance. But what made it truly unique were the structures embedded within it. Towering, translucent crystals, some as large as planets, pierced through the nebular clouds, catching the light and refracting it into shimmering rainbows. They weren't solid, geological formations, but seemed to be made of condensed light, humming with an inner glow. And indeed, she could hear it now. Not with her ears, but deep within her consciousness, the whisper that the Grand Conflux had spoken of. It was a faint, melancholic hum, a note slightly out of tune with the universal harmony, a wistful sigh that resonated with a profound sense of longing. It wasn't loud, but it was persistent, a quiet sorrow echoing through the vibrant beauty of the nebula. "The whispering core," Elara breathed, her voice barely a whisper itself. The ship automatically slowed, drifting gently into the outer fringes of the nebula. The crystals here were smaller, like cosmic snowflakes, drifting lazily amidst the swirling gases. The Stardust catcher pulsed, guiding her deeper. The path it projected now focused on one particularly large crystalline structure at the heart of the nebula, a colossal spire that seemed to drink in the nebula's light and glow with an intense yet soft, inner luminescence. This, she knew, was where the whisper originated. As the Ige cosmic wanderer approached the central spire, Elara felt the whisper intensify. It was a complex resonance, a melody woven from countless tiny vibrations, each one a different strand of cosmic energy. It felt ancient, beautiful, and profoundly sad. It was a song of being, of yearning, of something lost or incomplete. She brought the ship to a gentle halt beside a vast flat facet of the central crystal spire. It was so enormous that it filled her entire view screen, its surface shimmering with internal currents of light. She could see intricate patterns etched into its crystalline structure, like delicate fractals formed from pure energy. "This is it," she said, more to herself than to the empty bridge. She activated the external sensors, letting them drink in the energy signatures of the crystal. The Stardust catcher, now glowing with a soft, steady light, confirmed her intuition. This was the source of the anomaly. This was where she needed to listen. Elara knew she couldn't simply observe from the ship. The Conflux had asked her to listen, to understand him. That meant direct contact. She prepared her suit, a sleek, lightweight design that allowed for maximum sensory input while providing full environmental protection. Stepping into the airlock, she felt a thrill of anticipation mingled with a quiet sense of responsibility. This wasn't just another discovery. It was a conversation with the universe, a chance to lend her unique human perspective to a cosmic imbalance. The airlock cycled, and with a soft hiss, she was exposed to the ethereal beauty of the whispering core. The nebular gases swirled around her, tasting like ozone and starlight through her suit's filters. The light was soft, pervasive, bathing everything in a gentle, warm glow. She felt the subtle vibrations of the whisper, a low hum that resonated through her bones, through the very essence of her being. She pushed off from the ship, drifting towards the colossal crystal spire. As she drew closer, the patterns on its surface became clearer. They weren't just random fractals, they seemed to be a language, a form of cosmic script woven into the very structure of the crystal. Each line, each curve, pulsed with a faint internal light, telling a story without words. Reaching the surface of the crystal, Elara extended her hand, just as she had with the Stardust catcher. This time, there was no trembling. Only a quiet certainty. Her gloved fingers touched the smooth, cool surface. The contact was immediate and profound. The whisper intensified, flowing directly into her, not as an overwhelming torrent this time, but as a gentle, continuous stream. It was a story. A very, very old story. It spoke of the birth of the whispering core, not as a random cosmic event, but as a deliberate act of creation by a forgotten intelligence, a cosmic gardener who had sown seeds of light and consciousness throughout the universe. It spoke of the crystal spire itself, not as a rock, but as a vast, living repository of universal memories, a library of starlight and thought. And the whisper, the melancholic hum, was the sound of a memory that was fading, a story that was being forgotten. It was the universe's lament for a lost connection, a forgotten purpose. The anomaly wasn't a destructive force, it was a quiet sorrow, a yearning for remembrance. Elara closed her eyes, letting the crystalline memories flow into her. She saw visions of galaxies forming, of life taking root on nascent worlds, of ancient civilizations rising and falling in distant corners of time. She felt the joy of creation, the wonder of discovery, the pain of loss. And at the heart of it all, the gentle, persistent hum of the forgotten memory, yearning to be heard, to be understood, to be rewoven into the tapestry of the universe. She wasn't being asked to fix something broken, but to remember something forgotten, to bear witness to a cosmic truth that was slowly slipping away. And as she stood there, connected to the heart of the whispering core, she knew that her adventure had just taken another incredible turn, leading her not to action, but to profound understanding, to the quiet act of listening to the universe's oldest song. The next note was waiting to be sung, and Elara was ready to hear it. The next note wasn't a sound at all, not in the way Elara understood it. It was a wave, a shimmering tide of pure information that washed over her, through her, settling deep into the very atoms of her being. The whispering core didn't broadcast, it, imprinting. Her mind, a vessel carefully constructed by countless generations of evolution, strained and then expanded, accommodating the vastness that poured in. First, there was light, not the harsh, focused beams of a sun, but the gentle, undulating glow of nebulae birthing stars. She saw them flicker into existence, miniature suns igniting in the vast cosmic dark, each a tiny spark of intention. Then came the rhythm. The slow, majestic dance of galaxies spiraling through time, their arms unfurling like celestial dancers. She felt the gravity, not as a crushing force, but as an invisible thread connecting everything. A silent conductor orchestrating the universe's grand ballet. The song wasn't a melody of distinct notes, but a symphony of interconnectedness. It was the hum of a proton, the silent scream of a supernova, the gentle sigh of a newly formed planet cooling in space. It was the intricate pattern of crystal growth, the chaotic beauty of a storm, the synchronous flash of fireflies on an ancient Earth night. Every atom, every particle, every wave of energy was a vibrational signature, contributing to a single overarching resonance. Elara felt herself become part of this resonance. She was the nascent star, the swirling galaxy, the firefly. She was the dark matter weaving through the cosmos, the light bending around distant worlds, the very fabric of space-time stretching and contracting. It wasn't a vision of these things. It was the experience of being them, of understanding their fundamental nature from within. Then came the narrative, woven into the fabric of these sensations. It wasn't a story told in words, but in the echoes of existence, in the memory of matter itself. She perceived the universe not as a cold, indifferent machine, but as a living, breathing entity, constantly evolving, constantly learning, constantly dreaming. The forgotten truth began to coalesce. It wasn't a secret formula, or a lost civilization's wisdom. It was far more profound and far simpler. The universe in its entirety was a conscious being. Every star, every planet, every living creature, every speck of dust, all were facets of its awareness, experiencing existence through countless perspectives. The song was the universe's own inner monologue, its self-reflection, its grand unfolding dream. And the forgetting? It wasn't a cosmic amnesia, or a failure of the universe itself. It was the forgetting of its parts. Civilizations, as they grew, as they developed technologies and complex societies, often became so focused on their own individual experiences, their own survival, their own definitions of success and failure, that they lost sight of the grander tapestry. They began to perceive themselves as separate, isolated entities, distinct from the stars, distinct from their planets, distinct from each other. They forgot they were notes in the same eternal song, voices in the same cosmic choir. They mistook the harmony for mere noise, and their own individual melodies for the only music that mattered. The whispering core was not a record keeper in the conventional sense. It was the universe's own heart, its memory, its constant, gentle reminder to itself of its true nature. It didn't need to be fixed because it was never broken. It simply was started. And sometimes, when one of its parts, like humanity, like Alara, drifted too far into the illusion of separation, the core would reach out, whisper, and invite them to remember. Alara felt tears stream down her face, not of sadness, but of overwhelming understanding, of profound relief. The loneliness she sometimes felt, the sense of being a tiny speck in an infinite void, evaporated like morning mist. There was no void. There was only connection. An unbreakable web of existence where every thought, every action, every breath rippled through the whole. She saw the history of her own species, not as a series of triumphs and failures, but as a journey of forgetting, and, sometimes, of tentative remembering. The ancient myths, the spiritual traditions, the moments of collective awe at a starlit sky, these were glimpses, brief returns to the universal truth. But then the noise would return, the clamor of individual desires, the fear of the unknown, and the separation would reassert itself. The core showed her not just Earth, but countless other worlds, other species, some long gone, some still thriving. She witnessed their own cycles of remembering and forgetting. Some species, she realized, never forgot. They built their entire cultures around this fundamental interconnectedness, their technology flowing organically from a deep understanding of universal principles, their societies existing in perfect harmony with their environments and with each other. They didn't conquer, they collaborated. They didn't exploit, they nurtured. They were the universe's truly harmonious notes, never straying from the song. And then there were those, like humanity, who were still learning, still reaching, still rediscovering. The core didn't judge, it simply was. It offered the truth, not as a command but as an invitation. An invitation to rejoin the chorus, to remember the harmony, to live not as a separate entity, but as a conscious, integral part of the grand cosmic dream. Alara felt the subtle shift within her own mind, within her own consciousness. Her perspective broadened impossibly. She no longer saw the stars as distant points of light, but as siblings. She no longer felt the cold vacuum of space, but the warm embrace of the universal consciousness. The whispers in the core weren't just sounds, they were thoughts, feelings, memories, desires, the very essence of existence. Her connection wasn't just receiving, it was participating. As she listened, as she understood, she became a conduit, a channel through which the universe could remember itself through her. Her own thoughts, now purified by this profound understanding, became tiny resonant notes in the universal song. Her wonder, her awe, her love for the beauty she was witnessing, pulsed outwards, adding a fresh, clear tone to the ancient melody. She understood now why the core had called to her, why it had guided her through the nebula. It wasn't a quest for an object, but for a consciousness. Not a destination, but a state of being. She was here not to enjoy anything in the traditional sense, but to obey something. To be a listener, a rememberer, a conscious echo of the universe's own truth. The experience lasted for what felt like an eternity, and yet a single, perfect moment. Time itself seemed to dissolve, becoming another facet of the universal rhythm. She saw the birth and death of stars, the slow drift of continents, the fleeting lives of mayflies, all existing simultaneously within the core's infinite memory. Each was a perfect expression of its own truth, a unique vibration in the cosmic symphony. Slowly, gently, the intensity began to recede. The direct imprint lessened, not because the core stopped broadcasting, but because Elara's mind had integrated what it could. The vastness didn't disappear, but it settled, becoming a fundamental layer of her own being. She felt like a vessel that had been filled to overflowing, not with water, but with pure light and understanding. She opened her eyes, though she hadn't realized they were closed. The chamber of the whispering core still hummed around her, its crystalline structures still pulsing with soft internal light. But now, she saw them differently. They weren't just alien constructs, they were solidified thoughts, crystallized memories, a physical manifestation of the universe's own awareness. The connection to the core, the subtle tendrils of energy, began to withdraw from her mind, her hands, her very essence. It was a release, not an expulsion. A gentle letting go, like a parent watching a child walk away, knowing they carry a piece of home within them. Elara took a deep, shuddering breath, the first truly conscious breath she'd taken in what felt like eons. Her body felt heavier, grounded, yet her spirit felt lighter, unbound. The universe was no longer out there, it was in here, profoundly and irrevocably intertwined with her own existence. She looked at her hands, no longer just a pilot's hands, but hands that had touched the heart of creation. She knew that she couldn't simply unknow what she had learned. This understanding was now a part of her, a new lens through which she would view everything. What would she do now? The question wasn't urgent, but it was there. The core hadn't given her a mission, or a task to complete. It had given her a truth to embody. Her mission, she realized, was simply to remember. To live her life whatever it might be, with this profound interconnectedness at its core. To be a clear, harmonious note in the universal song, and perhaps through her actions, her words, her very presence, to help others remember too. She gently detached herself from the console, the faint hum of the core softening as she stepped away. The chamber, once a place of mystery, now felt like a sacred space, a cosmic sanctuary. She turned, her gaze sweeping over the crystalline structures, seeing not just their beauty, but their purpose, to be a constant, unwavering voice in the cosmic silence, a beacon of remembrance. Elara knew her journey aboard the Stardust Wanderer had not ended here. This was not a final destination, but a new beginning. She carried the universe's oldest song within her, a quiet melody that would guide her steps, inform her choices, and illuminate her path. As she walked back towards her ship, the nebula outside seemed to shimmer with a new intensity, its colors deeper, its patterns more intricate, its stardust more vibrant. The stars didn't just twinkle, they sang. The silence of space was not empty, but filled with the universe's gentle hum, a lullaby of existence. She reached the cockpit of the Stardust Wanderer, the familiar controls and worn seats a comforting sight after her journey through the cosmic mind. She settled into her pilot's chair, the familiar hum of the ship's engines, a gentle counterpoint to the new song within her. Her adventures wouldn't cease. There were still nebulae to explore, uncharted worlds to discover, new mysteries to unravel. But now, she would approach them differently. With a deeper sense of wonder, a profound respect for the interconnectedness of all things, and a quiet understanding that every journey, every encounter, every breath was a precious note in the universe's eternal song. She set a course for the next star, the Stardust Wanderer, a tiny shining speck against the vast singing canvas of space. Elara smiled, a gentle, knowing smile. She was no longer just a pilot searching for answers. She was a listener, a rememberer, a carrier of the universe's dream. And as the ship slipped silently into the stardusted night, Elara closed her eyes, not to sleep, but to listen, to feel the gentle rhythm of the cosmos, to be a part of its endless beautiful song, and the universe in turn listened back, content that one of its own had remembered.